I don't know. It's giving the era of Mantar, Doink the Clown. We also have our big heel like Talla, who's supposed to be menacing but like, super boring in the ring. Well, let's talk about last night's SmackDown as we continue to see the WWE kind of devolve in their creativity. And to me, it was giving mid 90s WWF last night on SmackDown, which is not a compliment. That is the era before the Attitude Era, which was just full of so much goofy shit, which is the kind of goofy shit we will probably get into as we talk about last night's SmackDown. We started with Cody Rhodes doing his usual spiel. I'm so sick of hearing the question, what do you want to talk about? But I will say this, though. Cody is still over with the audience there in these arenas. So I can do all this complaining. A lot of us can do all this complaining online. But in arenas, Cody is still over as a babyface. And until that changes, I don't know if we're ever going to get away from what do you want to talk about and the usual Cody Rhodes spiels. Ricky Saints made his debut interrupting Cody. They're good friends in real life. They were together in AEW. I feel like Cody is a big part of why Ricky Saints made the jump to NXT in the first place. And that's all fine and well, but I don't feel like this was a good debut on the main roster for Ricky Saints at all. First of all, he came out to zero pop from the crowd. The crowd did not care whatsoever. Although, to be fair, it was kind of a bad crowd overall in Tulsa for the entirety of SmackDown. But then I felt like during Ricky Saints' talk about how it's Friday Night Saints now and how he is going to bring a revolution here, he is the revolution to SmackDown. I feel like Cody, even though they're supposed to be friends in real life, Cody kind of made Ricky Saints sound very delusional in everything that he was saying. Maybe that was the point. Maybe Ricky Saints is going to be a delusional gimmick. But yeah, Ricky was a heel here. I guess that's what they were going for. They made a match for later in the night, but I don't really think this did anything for Ricky Saints' debut, and their match later probably did even worse. I gave this segment a -1 on the trash scale because I didn't feel like it was a good initial debut for Ricky Saints, and that was kind of the thread that went throughout the night for Ricky specifically. On the women's side, I do feel like for the first time in like 8 months or more, they are trying with the women's division on SmackDown. I feel like JC Jane and Fatal Influence coming onto SmackDown has helped them form a storyline a bit where Rhea and Charlotte and Alexa Bliss all kind of need each other to take down Fatal Influence because there's a numbers game here. At first, though, the storyline for the night was that Charlotte Flair did not want Rhea Ripley's help in her match tonight against Jane. And then JC Jane cut a heel promo about how she loves embarrassing legends. She claims she's going to take out one legend at a time. I don't know if I love some sort of half-assed legend killer gimmick for JC Jane, but we'll see if they actually put thoughts into that. But between JC's promo and the backstage stuff with Charlotte, Alexa Bliss, and Rhea Ripley, I felt like we have them actually at least trying with the women's division. So I gave it a 1 on the fire scale. It's more than they've done for a long time with the SmackDown's women's division. The match itself between Charlotte and JC Jane was pretty basic, but it told the story it needed to tell, that Fatal Influence is a numbers game. Alexa Bliss wasn't enough to help JC Jane when both Fallon Henley and Laney were interfering in the match, and that cost Charlotte the match. So I gave the match a 1 on the fire scale, just because it at least continued the storyline, even though I can't say that I was necessarily into the match. Once again, to explain how I am rating matches on these scales, they have to make me care about the match, whether it's with the storyline leading up to the match or during the match itself, and the match itself has to be entertaining. So that's sort of where I go with my ratings there. Next up was our first Danhausen segment of the night, where The Miz and Kit Wilson were trying to trap him with a free human money sign with $40,000 in a briefcase. Danhausen was able to leave with the money, so the trap didn't work. And then when Miz and Kit Wilson go to open the briefcase, that's when the powder shoots Miz and Wilson in the face. I didn't even rate this because I just feel like a lot of this is for the kids, and that's fine. That's also how I feel like the WWF was in the mid-90s. This was pretty basic comedy for kids here. The Tag Team Championship match was next. Damian Priest and R-Truth versus Fraxium. The story in this match was that every time Damian Priest was in the match, he basically dominated the match. But just like I said last week, with the tag team champions here, Priest and R-Truth, they're just thrown together as a tag team. Don't really feel like there's any point to it. So I didn't really feel like there was any point to this match. So I just gave it a 0 overall. After the match, Talla of the MFTs destroyed Priest and R-Truth, though some other people from the MFT was released from the WWE today. So they're going to have a smaller group going forward. Another problem I have with this beatdown after the match is that Damian Priest and R-Truth just beat MFT in a tag match last week. So why should I care about that feud continuing for the tag titles when the heels were already embarrassed, although I guess Talla Tonga was not involved. Which brought us to our next segment, Solo Sikoa out there with Talla Tonga, talking about how Jacob Fatu made a big mistake last week when he beat down his group. The Usos came out because they also have a problem with Jacob Fatu because of what he did to Roman on Raw. This was more of them just trying to build up our Bloodline 2.0 story, or I guess at this point it's like a 4.0 storyline, and I just feel like it's still falling short because it's just been going on so long, and I don't know if Solo is an interesting enough character anymore to carry any of these segments. What this segment did do well is that Talla Tonga looked strong because he was able to beat down both of the Usos during this segment. So I at least gave it a 1 on the fire scale because I think it at least made Talla Tonga look better, and it set up our main event. But the main event was not good for Solo or Talla Tonga, but I'll talk about that when we get there. But I also don't think the Cody Rhodes versus Ricky Saints match was good for Ricky Saints. It was a match full of a lot of reversals, and I'm not saying the match was bad by any means. Like I said before, when I give these ratings, especially when they're on the trash scale, it's not necessarily because the match itself was bad, but I just felt like this match hurt Ricky Saints more than it helped him. And I think the WWE and some bookers in wrestling think, well, this person went toe-to-toe with our world champion, and that's supposed to be the rub, but that doesn't always work. Usually in recent years, when this is how someone is brought up to the main roster to fight the champion and lose to the champion, it takes them a long time for creative on the main roster to try and do more with that person and get them over. The best example of that is Carmelo Hayes, and I feel like Ricky Saints is going along that same line. So the match got a -1 on the trash scale from me. After the match, Cody's celebrating and Gunther attacks him, gets him, basically knocks him out, and then keeps him in a sleeper after he was already passed out. Referees have to break it up. It's more of this from Gunther. We saw him do this to Seth Rollins leading up to his match there. We saw him do it in the past to AJ Styles. He's kind of our legend killer gimmick right now, even though that's what JC Jane's talking about on the women's roster. I gave it a 1 on the fire scale. I'm assuming this is Cody Rhodes' next big opponent. They're going to have to do a lot to make me excited for said match, though. The Danhausen segment was next, and Other than Cody, this was the only time all night that the Tulsa crowd came alive. So I think that has to be noted. Maybe there was a lot of kids in the crowd, and that's why Danhausen continues to be so popular. But I feel like a lot of adults like him too. And I'm not going to crap completely on Danhausen. I think his shtick, although I am getting tired of it, I can see how sometimes it is so stupid that it is funny. The whole storyline here is that The Miz tried to make it seem like he was going to make an alliance with Danhausen and admit to being cursed, kind of just want to start getting along with Danhausen. They could even become Mizhausen. And then Kit Wilson came down trying to talk some sense into The Miz, but it was all just a trap when Danhausen thought he was going to be able to curse Kit Wilson. The Miz attacks him from behind, beats him down. Later, a tag match is set for, I think, the next PLE Backlash if Danhausen can find a tag team partner. But at least Danhausen got beat down here. I think it's kind of overdue for Miz to do this to him. And like I said, the fans were most alive for this segment. I gave it a 1 on the fire scale. I'm fine with this segment, but for some of the other segments that came later in the match, later in the night, I'm talking about the Gingerbread Man, it's a little too much goofy shit for me. Before we get there, though, Royce Keys had a squash. He squashed Angel, and I think Angel's been released from the WWE since then, but don't quote me on that completely. I don't rate squash matches. We had a segment in the back, one of the only interesting things to me all night, actually, because I feel like they covered a lot. Royce Keys and Jacob Fatu have known each other for 14 to 15 years, and they kind of make a little alliance here. Keys said that Roman and the Usos are back on top, so they are back in business. And Keys told Fatu to werewolf himself up and don't let Roman take food off his table. They've already done a good job of setting up Jacob Fatu as like an everyman out there just wanting to get more money for his kids. He has to do this to put food on his kids' table. I feel like they're trying to do the same thing with Royce Keys. They're covering a friendship here that can be used for a future storyline. They, however, then got both beat down by Solo Sikoa and Talla Tonga, mostly Talla beating them down with the chokeslam. I think he chokeslammed Jacob Fatu through the table. So we got a friendship here, and we still made Talla Tonga look strong, so I gave this a 2 on the fire scale. My highest rating of the night. Sami Zayn came out with the gingerbread costume on display in the middle of the ring. And look, I like Sami Zayn's promo about all these bad reactions he's getting, about how it's easy for Trick Williams to get over the way he's getting over. Very condescending here from Zayn, so it is more heelish. And I feel like it's a little too soon to turn Trick Williams totally babyface, even though he's so popular. It just seems a little soon for that. It also doesn't go with what he said last week about how he's not going to have the U.S. Open Challenge every week. That made sense for a heel character. Doesn't make sense if they're turning Trick babyface here. But the whole segment was about Sami Zayn attacking the gingerbread costume and tearing apart the attire. And then Trick Williams comes out and makes the save on the gingerbread man costume. It was more goofy shit. And that's why I say that I'm getting like mid-90s WWF vibes, 1995 WWF vibes. We have our Doink the Clown, who is our baby face like Danhausen to entertain the children. And then we have stupid segments like this with a costume that's getting beat up. And then we have a segment where they're saying rip to the gingerbread man. Rest in peace. Sami Zayn killed the gingerbread man. I don't know. It's giving the era of Mantar, Doink the Clown. We also have our big heel like Talla Tonga, who's supposed to be menacing but super boring in the ring, which I will talk about in the main event. But yeah, I did not like this segment. It was too goofy for me. I gave it a -1 on the trash scale. Quickly, tag team title match, Paige and Brie Bella versus Nia Jax and Lash Legend. Why this match is on my trash list is the ending. It didn't make sense where Lash Legend was distracting the referee when Nia Jax was about to do her move and let Nia Jax get double teamed basically. and get so Brie can outsmart them and get a roll up. It just made Last Legend look dumb. I don't like finishes that aren't logical, and that finish was not logical. So a -1 on the trash scale there leads us to our main event. Jimmy and Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa and Talla Tonga. So boring. Solo is already a pretty boring character. And Talla Tonga next to him in a tag team, not much better. This was an extremely boring main event. And so even though they made Talla Tonga look good throughout the night, this match did not do him any favors because when it came to ring time, it was a yawner. Super boring main event, a -1 on the trash scale. The aftermath made Jacob Fatu look strong again, though. Fatu was able to put Talla Tonga through the commentary table with a Samoan drop, and he walked past the Usos, did a promo about how he's going to dog walk Roman Reigns' ass, basically, how he's all gas and no brakes. I thought it was another good showing for Jacob Fatu. They really want him to be a viable option to go against Roman. Gave it a 1 on the fire scale. But adding it all up, it gets a 0 for my grade, my lowest grade since I started doing this a couple weeks ago or last week, whenever I started doing this. Not a good SmackDown. I don't like the mid-90s WWF vibes. It's too childish. It's too goofy. I'm grading this as an adult. I think it's probably good for the kids, and if that's what they're going for, that could be a good business decision here. And knowing TKO, that probably is the business decision. Is this the AI booking that they were talking about on social media all week this week? I can maybe see that too. Maybe AI thinks that the crowd wants more mid-90s pro wrestling style. But for me, personally, it is not the style that I want to see on my television.